Donald Trump wants to send troops into Portland, Oregon, which has been blocked by a judge twice. They've put that into the appeals process. And they have done a lot of raids in Chicago. They've detained probably 1,000 immigrants in this process, dictating the Operation Midway Blitz, blitzkrieging over into there and grabbing all of the undocumented people out of the city of Chicago. And they've engaged in some pretty high-profile raids during that process, which has caused a backlash, including a raid of an apartment complex where 37 people were arrested, and four American kids were separated from their parents. Now, these are American kids who are children to undocumented parents. Now, it seems that in this apartment complex, there was no distinction between citizen and non-citizen. The people who were arrested and taken out in zip ties, according to local witnesses, included all of the inhabitants of the apartment building, meaning if you were a citizen or not a citizen, you were getting detained and zip tied, and children. Let me read you a witness statement from one of those who saw this raid take place. From Ebony Watson. After they heard flashbangs go off that were thrown into the apartment complex. They were terrified. The kids were crying. People were screaming. They looked very distraught. I was out there crying when I seen the little girl come around the corner because they was bringing the kids down too. Had them zip tied to each other, Watson told WLS, with recalling trucks and military-style vans were used to separate adults from their children. In its statement addressing the raid, DHS noted it was still gathering information about those arrested due to the size of the operation and will provide more information. Federal law enforcement officers will not slide by and allow criminal activity to flourish in our American neighborhoods. Now, what they alleged was that this was a Trinidad location. That's what the government alleged. Now, of the undocumented people that they arrested, and they arrested dozens, they say one is a confirmed member of a gang. So there was criminals in here. We do know that. They say even that one of the children, one of the four children, so one of the four that were separated from their parents was also when somebody who would be a gang member or is described as a gang member in the report. But along with the gang members, along with the people who were out on warrants from stuff, there was like a few citizens on warrant, I believe. There were a bunch of people who had no warrants out for them, and mostly undocumented, but otherwise non-criminal people. I.e., these are not people going out and participating in violent crime or dealing drugs. I think they were able to get one person who at one point had a misdemeanor drug charge, I think, for the undocumented people. So it could have been a joint, could have been something harder. Who knows? Why is it that they can just take everyone out of an apartment like this? I mean, the people that were not criminals, they were taken, zip tied, brought out, and they were released roughly around 3 a.m. Think about that. It's the middle of the night. It's like 8 or 9 p.m. They kick down the door, and for the next 6 hours, you need to be going through with the police after no warrant was shown for your apartment. No judge said that you are a criminal or that you have some suspicion of committing a crime or XYZ. And now you have to answer for the crime of living in a building that has a gang member in it. Now, look, if they found dangerous gang members in this apartment complex and they arrested them, good. If they found people that were a danger to the community and arrested them, good. But in the process of doing that, we should not be violating the rights of other people. There's a reason why stop and frisk as a policy was done away with. There's a reason why. And the reason is, if you are a law-abiding citizen, you should not be brought under undue force for crimes that you did not commit, but crimes somebody else committed, or in order for them to go after other people's criminal activity, now everybody's up for grabs. oh, we heard that there could be somebody with a gun in this apartment. Now we have to look through every single apartment, every single like window, we need to smash the windows. There were broken windows. If you look inside these rooms, it looks like an army ran through it. And from people who witnessed it, they describe it similar in that style as well. And when you've got raids like this happening not only here, but in other locations as well, the reputation of ICE has taken a gigantic plummet. During first term Trump, and this was with Trump's rhetoric around immigrants during his first term, you know, we understood who Trump was the first term. Net neutral opinion of ICE. That was the American perspective. Now, the numbers I've seen are -15. -15. Mind you, those are month-old numbers. I would not be surprised if at this point the numbers are worse than that, especially as more and more of these videos come out. And the ways that they are going to make these numbers that Stephen Miller and those in the administration are demanding are getting more and more loose. At first, at the very start, you saw a bunch of reports of violent drug dealers or criminals who are undocumented getting snatched. But after that first week or two, they realized that there wasn't just like an unrestricted tap of violent gang members that the Biden administration was just leaving in a bin basket somewhere that Trump could just pick up and throw out of the country. That if there is other undocumented violent criminals, the reason they haven't been caught is because they haven't been caught either committing a crime or arrested, period. And so past that point, everybody, or 80 to 90% of the people getting detained, getting arrested, getting deported, are people with no violent history of crime. And the ones that are being deported who have a history of crime, I look at those crimes and the majority of them are things like drug possession. The majority of them are minor crimes that could be as simple as having a joint. Again, are there violent criminals? Yes, there are, but the vast majority are not. And so this image that he portrayed on the campaign trail of we're going to go after the gangs, we're going to go after the criminals, we're going to go after the people who are violating the law. For most Americans, when they heard that, and even a lot of people when they voted for that, they did it under the assumption that, oh, those people who are on the corner that scare me when I walk by because I know they're packing and I know what the type of business they engage in, they're going to go after them, not the guy who works at the department store that I go to, not the guy who works at the barber shop that I go to, not the other person who has been in the community for 25 years and all of their kids are U.S. citizens who only know this country and nothing else. That's not what the majority of U.S. citizens thought it was going to be. But that's what we have now. It's anybody who is here undocumented, they're going to try to grab and they're going to try to throw out. That seems to be the policy. Anyone. And like there are people who are participating in the process, going to the court appearances, and they just use it as an opportunity to pick them up. On stacked upon them like prowling Home Depots and a lot of times race being used as a method of identifying possible suspects, which of course means that if you are a Mexican American or if you are a Guatemalan American or if you're somebody who are a U.S. citizen, you getting racially profiled, the odds of that happening have substantially increased since this administration has come to power. And when they're asked about this, they say, well, the majority of them undocumented are going to look like that. So, you know, it is what it is. Of course, this brings up civil rights concerns, but it is what it is. Now, I wanted to go through a few of these videos that we had collected of ICE's engagements that's leading to this decrease, because a lot of the reason why Americans are turning against ICE is not even that Americans are against the idea of deportation, even though they might say, well, if they've been here for 30 years, you know, there's a difference here. It's also just the way that they engage themselves. As ICE has massively expanded and their budget has more than quadrupled in size, the government has hired a lot of new people, and they've been essentially told, you got to bump the numbers up. And so they've acted aggressively. And when they're given carte blanche and there's not consequences and they're defended when they hide their identities so they don't have to ID themselves as other law enforcement officers in a neighborhood do, then you have masked men, no connection to the community, who are not going to identify themselves, many dressed in civilian attire, detaining U.S. citizens based upon minor suspicions that could lead you to question their citizenship. Sometimes being you were standing outside of a Home Depot at the wrong time, or other times being, you got the look.
What is he being pulled over for? What is he being pulled over for?
Le van a quebrar el vidrio, te toca, Martín. Martín.
There's a child!
Baby!
There's a baby!
Baby, bro! Open the door!
There's a baby!
My baby, bro!
There's a baby!
I heard them say deport them all. I don't believe the BS that the people didn't know. It depends who you are. When Trump was on a stage talking to the people who are not already in his camp, who they convinced, the independents they convinced to vote for him, and in what was a tight election. I mean, while people talk about the Electoral College margin, the vote total between Harris and Trump, we're talking about like 1%. Trump got 48% of the vote. That's not the landslide that Stephen Miller and other of his attack dogs try to claim it is. But the people that were convinced were partially convinced under the idea that we're going to be going after the problems, not the people who are in the community and are not really that much of a problem. It's not like the majority of Americans are particularly clamoring for the person who's been here 30 years, has learned the language, is a healthy member of society, who has kids here, to have their life uprooted because it somehow makes you safer. Or as the Trump administration has argued, we'll bring down your housing prices, we'll do this, we'll do that, which so far we have yet to see that correlation. We'll open up new jobs as we have a job decrease for this month and last month after it was adjusted, as we now have less jobs available than unemployed people. So it seems that as the Trump administration has gone on, the jobs picture has gone in the opposite direction.
You guys, we have a little bit of mercy, dude. He has a 1-month-old. He has a 1-month-old.
I don't know, bro.
Just comply. Everything's fine.
Hey, it's for my baby, bro.
There's a baby.
Baby, bro. Yo.
Martín, aquí estamos en el fire stop.
Aquí no, Martín, no, aquí no. Okay, it's okay, sir. It's okay, sir. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Resist.
Oh, motherfucker. Can I ask why he's being detained? Can I ask why he's being detained? Can I ask why he's being
He has
detained?
an immigration warrant.
He has an image. Can I see the warrant signed? Can I see the warrant
You can come
signed?
to the
No,
office.
I need to see the warrant. This is illegal. You guys do not have the warrant signed.
This is not
No,
illegal.
you guys do not have not shown us the fucking warrant.
You can come
You
by the
have
office
no.
and see it.
I want to see it right here. I want to see it right here. You guys don't have the fucking warrant.
Cover my back.
You're stepping his phone. You're
Stay
stepping
back.
on his phone.
Back
Give
up.
me his
Back
phone.
up. No.
Give me his phone. Give me his phone. I'm asking.
up.
Give me his phone. I need to call his boss. Give me his phone. Can I have his stuff?
No. You don't want his phone to call you?
He's literally
He has
just
it?
yeah.
Okay.
Can I have his stuff though? Can I have his stuff? I need his stuff.
He's gonna need his stuff.
I need his stuff.
Well then,
We have a baby.
after we process him, then we'll call you. He'll call you.
And just like that, they're off. You know, coming out immediately with guns drawn was, I think, a really good relationship building opportunity. Really good relationship building to just swarm the car, guns drawn immediately, smash the window upon immediate questioning. You know, I think this is all, baby in the back of the car. Great image for ICE. I mean, it would be, it also sucks that this keeps happening to U.S. citizens as well, because they just misidentify them, or this also happens to legal residents as well, because again, they just misidentify them. But, hey, if it happens to an undocumented person, then, hey, at least you swung right that time. That seems to be the energy. The energy seems to be, look, we're aggressive, we're sloppy, we're catching up U.S. citizens, we're deporting women to men's prisons. We're doing many things that, if you took your time, maybe you wouldn't be making these mistakes, but we don't have the opportunity to take our time. We have to use the opportunity we have now before the midterms, or more importantly, 2028. That seems to be the emphasis from people like Stephen Miller right now. One second. I think there's one more. There's two more videos I have. This is another video. And again, these videos go mega ultra viral on TikTok, on social media. This is making it much more difficult for ICE to navigate in these communities, because people see these videos, then they see ICE, and they have no desire to cooperate with ICE. And some of them might even have the desire to hinder ICE. There was recent protests where I saw where they were trying to do operations where the ICE vehicles leave with popped tires, where somebody clearly slashed them, where local residents, from people who are my age to people who are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, are trying to prevent ICE from operating in their neighborhoods. Social media alerts are sent out in advance, notifying people of where ICE is operating so people who are fleeing ICE can hide and get away from them. And the thing is, what ICE has managed to do and what Trump has managed to do is build a coalition of people who don't like what's going on for different reasons. There is a scenario where I'm being told that there was a gang operating in a single building, where these are all undocumented people we want ICE to go, who are committing crimes and doing that. And I'd be somebody who'd be like, okay, look, if they're a danger to community, it makes sense for local police enforcement to work with federal officials to get these people detained, and then we can work with their native country's authorities in order to get them removed to one of their prisons. You could get me to cooperate on that. But then when that operation is going to be expanded to everyone and anyone, not only people who have been undocumented here for 30 years and have been no fault to anyone outside of the one fault that they created by entering here illegally 30 years ago before establishing lives, having children, but also American citizens. Not only just the fact that American citizens are getting detained for 6, 7, 8, 12 hours, days at a time before eventually somebody has a bright idea to look at their documentation and say, oh, I guess you're not being deported. But at the same time, Trump is floating to these foreign dictators that he's deporting people to, some of whom are legal residents in the United States, some of whom have been returned because of that mistake and have come back with horror stories. He's talking about sending American citizens to foreign prisons. He had that conversation. It was caught on the hot mic. That's public record. And so you create a coalition of Americans who don't like the deportation of people who've been here for 30 years, 25 years, built their lives. They think it has to be more prudent. You've got Americans who don't like the fact that police officers are not identifying themselves. And so that is something that's a transparency issue. You've united them. You've got people who see videos like this and think that these are a bunch of hotheads who maybe shouldn't be involved in the law enforcement to begin with.
Step back. Step back. I'm on a public
He's not doing anything. You're seeing that. He's not doing anything. He's not doing anything.
Where it seems like every single time resistance is met, the only solution is like violence, attempted tackle, with the biggest difficulty for them being most of them don't seem to know how to take someone down. Like, I watched a few UFC fights. I know what I'm doing. But the image that has been produced of them is of an untransparent organization that sweeps into your community without the support of local law enforcement in the middle of the night, sweeps up a bunch of people, U.S. adult, child, non-citizen, criminal, non-criminal, U.S. citizen in the middle of the night. And then once it's been done and you've, missed 4 or 5 days off of work and you've, had your night ruined and you've traumatized your children, then they'll decide, okay, I guess you're a U.S. citizen, you can go for now. Don't cause any trouble. And of course, they'll use the opportunity to look through your warrants and see if there's anything else they can get you on. Maybe they'll find a joint in your room or something. You have no clue. This image has been able to unite people who normally maybe wouldn't have been united. For example, I know a lot of people who watch police body cam footage, like a lot, and specifically watch it because they care about police officers following the rights of individuals, that the Miranda rights are followed, that proper protocol is followed, because they fear living in a country where the police officers can just harass you, they can abuse you, and there's no system of accountability. There's no system for you to be compensated, even if we don't like the fact that American taxpayers often end up paying off the abuse fines and the court decisions for abusive police officers who sometimes will just move a few districts over. But this has united a bunch of people against ICE that regularly before, during first term Trump, wouldn't have been so angry at ICE. When ICE had a net neutral approval rating. Now they're in the double-digit negatives. They're in the hard red, and we're not even done with the first year. I wanted to just show you this video here. It was sent to me by my friend, and I wanted to check it out because this is in Chicago. This is where ICE has been particularly aggressive in Chicago, where they've been detaining people off the side of the street who are walking. They've been detaining people by raiding the houses, like that apartment complex we talked about. But this is somebody they grabbed on the street. And these people are trying to detain him, these ICE officers. And you can see that the majority of them seem to be in civilian clothes. There's a few that are dressed almost like a paramilitary police, not the type of cop you would see if you're in Chicago. It's a typical street cop. And this entire thing is a mess. The dude fights and he fights and he fights, not by punching or kicking, but by doing everything possible to not be detained. And after a minute or two, enough opposition builds and enough other people swarm around that eventually they determine that it's not worth it and they just give up. Why is that dude wearing sneakers? By the way, the one that actually is dressed like some form of government authority. I imagine, again, if you're a local who's used to, cops looking like cops, and now you see this dude in a balaclava dressed up in green as like the only form of government authority that's even present that looks semi-government, and he's wearing sneakers. Like his right foot looks like it's about to burst out of that shoe. I don't know if you guys see that. See that local right there is like right on him. There's a woman behind watching. There's a guy right there watching. You see locals are now coming around saying, come on, man, leave him alone. And they're just throwing him around, and they're failing to detain this guy. This guy, what is he doing, dude? He's riding him like a horse. He's literally riding him like a pony. Now more people gathering. They got their cell phone cameras out. It's becoming a spectacle. Some dudes are calling for more people to come over. Now more people with their phones out as this dude now is trying to get him in a rear naked choke or something. I don't know what he's trying. He's trying to do something. He just threw that dude a walkie-talkie. I think it fell off the civvy. Well, the dude who looks like a civvy. They're trying again to get him in that car. He is resisting with every piece of his soul. dude, the balaclavas freak me out, man. I mean, I don't think they're balaclavas. The way it's not like completely over their eyes and heads. But at this point, screw the half face covers. Just go full balaclava. Just go full FSB. Like, why even like pretending? If the idea is the American public should have no idea who's policing them, then just go full balaclava. Remove any pretenses. Dude, they suck at this so bad. They're trying to stop. You see that woman as he throws those, as he fails again to get the zip ties around his hands. He like it flies a little bit, and that woman immediately tries to stomp on it. And there's not a single person sympathetic to what they're doing in that crowd. Oh, never mind. The other one is wearing just a full balaclava. I guess the other dude doesn't have a balaclava, because where is he? I guess he could have had a balaclava in his pocket, but yeah, he looks civvy. And then they just run away. They just let him go and run away. That's it. They just were one in a civilian vehicle, and they drive away in a civilian vehicle, unmarked car. They just drop them. They eventually gave it. It was like, it's too much effort. There's now a crowd. The locals know we're here. And then they just pack up and run away in, again, a civilian vehicle. This is, I hate to say this, but this is like how in more traditional style dictatorships, like how people disappear. Civilian car coming down the street, you're just walking down the road. Some guy who just seemed to be just walking next to you all of a sudden grabs you. He was an agent in disguise. Another person jumps out of the car, grabs you, throws you into this civilian vehicle, and then you just disappear, right? Whether or not the disappear part, that part comes into play or doesn't. And for a lot of these families, as they're trying to get in touch with immigration authorities, you know, for a period, they basically are disappeared. That image, that entire package is never going to be deliverable to a community like this in a positive image. You are only going to get resistance like this if that's how you decide to go about law enforcement. It's through people who are so scared of their reputation, they have to run from it. They have to hide their face. So scared of their reputation, they dress up like civilians so they can pretend they're just like the rest of us. That's a bad recipe for policing. That's a recipe for a disaster. That's a recipe for one of these instances where it's going to be something like this, and instead of letting go, the cops are going to be a little bit more hard-headed, or they're going to be a little bit more determined, however you look at it. One's going to pull out a gun. The gun might misfire. You have some accident. And when you're massing into these communities with no local support from the civilian population or from local law enforcement, that means no coordination. In fact, that means locals coordinating against you. You're running uphill. You're pushing the rock. And look, they're able to do some removals. They've been able to do 1,000 in Chicago so far. But the tension is only building. Are they willing to barrel right through it as the tension boils over, especially as troop deployments in Portland were blocked by a judge twice? Now, Trump is going to appeal that, and Stephen Miller has argued on CNN and on other platforms as, a high-level advisor to the president, that they're going to just find other ways, that ultimately Donald Trump controls the military. He's in charge of the military. He's the head of the military. And so if he's not allowed to do it one way, he'll basically find another way. And that might seem like a blunt way of describing what he said, but that is essentially exactly what he said, almost word for word. Let's see if we can put this up on the screen. Where is what Stephen Miller said? I think I have Stephen Miller. I think he gets off of his reverse bat slumber for a second to talk. I believe he did, at least. Here it is.
And the city of Chicago are filing a lawsuit against the Trump administration over deployments of National Guard troops. Joining us now to comment, White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller. My question was whether the administration still plans to abide by that judge's order restricting any National Guard troops from being sent to Oregon.
Well, the administration will abide by the ruling insofar as it affects the covered parties, but there are also many other options the president has to deploy federal resources and assets out of the U.S. military to Portland. But I was making the point that under federal law, Section...
Stephen Miller's doing good. He's remembering to blink.
To Portland. But I was making the point that under federal law, Section Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has the authority anytime he believes federal resources are insufficient to federalize the National Guard to carry out a mission necessary for public safety. So it's important to understand that in Portland, ICE officers have been subjected to over 100 nights of terrorist assault, doxing, murder threats, violent attack, and every other means imaginable to try to overturn the results of the last election through violence. The most important point I want to make today is that...
Okay, so just to be clear,
Burns is an immoral.
Doxing is terrorism. Is that what we're saying? Doxing, we're going to say doxing is terrorism. If doxing's terrorism, okay, then we got a lot of terrorists here on the platform. But Sooks, thank you so much for the primer. This is ridiculous. There's officers who engage in ICE activities. There are people who hate that there is zero transparency about who's engaging in these activities. And so they go out and they put their information out there. Now, whether or not that is moral, immoral, legal, not legal, that's not terrorism. There's a word for it. It's called doxing. Just say they've been doxed, okay? You just say that. Their identities have been put out there. Now, I understand if you're talking about the identities of their kids, the identities of different family members. Obviously, there's a question about whether there's a transparent need for information like that. No, there isn't. But again, this isn't terrorism. Violent threats, okay? Threats exist. Again, that's not in and of itself terrorism. Or even if you could say it's the threat of terrorism, that doesn't mean that terrorism is occurring. You would have led with, there was the big bombing in the state. There was a bombing of an ICE facility in Portland, so we have to go in to fight against this terrorism. That would be the example of terrorism. Instead, the instance that has been talked about is the only instance of anti-ICE terrorism that I have seen really was that assassination attempt where somebody went out there, a terror attack attempt where somebody went out there with a rifle, tried to shoot ICE agents, and all they did was kill and wound detained peoples. That's it. So that's, that they didn't achieve anything besides murder and then killed themselves. That's the instance that I can think of. And that did not happen in Portland, Oregon. So why would you need to deploy these troops to Portland, Oregon to fight terrorists?
That the number 1 and 2 items in the GOP platform in 2024 were to turn back the border invasion and carry out the largest deportation program in American history. Since Inauguration Day, there's been an orchestrated campaign.
Mind you, again, they won with 48% of the vote. And when he says we have a mandate, that's not, you can call it you won. 48% of the vote is not a mandate, okay? That's the first thing. Second thing, of the people who did give you the win, a lot of those people were not people who said, we want U.S. troops to be deployed in Portland, Oregon, so people who have been here for 30 years with kids with no criminal history can be deported. That's not what they all said, okay? There are people who said that in Trump's base, maybe even have 60%, maybe even 65%. But do you have a majority of the people? Do you have a majority of the American public? No. Maybe you have a majority of Trump supporters, but Trump voters, you do not have a clear 95, 80%, and 100%. A lot of those people who gave Trump the presidency did not vote, number one, for him to do this, or even thought he would do this in the first place.
Terrorism and violence against ICE officers. Of course, we saw the recent sniper attack against ICE officers. They're publishing their families' photos online. They're threatening them with murder. They're threatening them with death. And they're physically attacking them in the street each and every day. And yet, shamefully, the mayor and governor in Portland and Oregon have refused to render aid, leaving ICE officers to street fight every single night against these terrorists.
Now, to be clear, there have been arrests. There have been arrests. There have been dozens of arrests, in fact. It's just they don't believe they have done enough to support ICE in engaging in the deportations. Not just protecting the facility, but engaging in the deportations themselves, as in protecting them as they go out into the streets. But that's, like, they've been clear, and they don't want to cooperate with ICE operations.
You make the claim of terrorist assaults and violence attack over 100 nights, and yet the judge overseeing this case says that that's untethered from reality. And local officials on the ground say that Trump's assertion of what's happening is in Portland, that it's war-ravaged and burning to the ground, is far from true. I looked at the police data, and police have made something like 70 total arrests since June, and there are no reports of buildings being burned to the ground. The White House cited a guillotine being rolled out as like a public display of...
Trump again doubled down on this burning down idea today, saying that Portland was burning and he has to send troops. Burning how? Of local passion? I have no clue what he means by burning. There's no burning. The only burning I saw in Portland was local police officers' eyes from ICE tear gassing them on accident.
Rebellion, but there isn't actually a threat that these demonstrators are going to overthrow the government. Are you concerned that that response weakens your legal argument?
No, they are actually, as we speak, trying to overthrow the core law enforcement function of the federal government. Of course, this is, I think, where we're talking past each other. When ICE officers have to street battle against Antifa...
Mind you, the chief law enforcement purpose of the federal government is what? Deporting everyone who's here undocumented. That's the chief law enforcement purpose of the federal government. There's a lot of law enforcement purpose. It's terrorism, all sorts of stuff. It's a purpose, but you cannot just say this is the chief purpose, therefore we can do whatever we want at any time. That's not how that works.
Hand-to-hand combat every night to come and go from their building. When they try to exit in a vehicle, when they are swarmed and surrounded and they try to tip the vehicle over, when people bring weapons to an ICE facility to try to engage in direct violent assault against ICE officers.
Most of this, if somebody brings a gun and tries to go shoot ICE officers, you can call that terrorism. Somebody's trying to throw a bomb, something, you can throw a bomb there, that's terrorism, okay? Somebody throwing a rock, somebody tipping a car, typically this has been described as rioting. And the reason that we have a different word to describe it is if we have the same word to describe graffitiing a police car, that is to flying a plane into the World Trade Center, that it seems like we don't have the aperture necessary to talk about political violence, or at least Stephen Miller doesn't. Well, he does, he just doesn't care to turn it on.
It is to prevent immigration and customs enforcement from carrying out the mission the American people elected them to do.
You make the case that these are terrorists, but in what we've seen thus far, the actual incidents of people inciting violence and not responding to law enforcement attempting to disperse them are not an open rebellion. I mean, again, you make this characterization as though they're terrorists, and I do wonder if it is potentially a problem in the future for Republicans. If a Democratic president someday calls the National Guard to a red state over what they see as open rebellion, but is what amounts to a demonstration that gets rowdy. I mean, is that not a fear?
They're posting
yours?
pictures of their kids because it's a demonstration, and they have a sniper on top of a building firing a high-caliber rifle at a nice facility because it's a demonstration, and they are engaged in a vehicle ramming.
But the National Guard isn't being sent to Texas.
Because it's a
the National Guard isn't being sent to Dallas, where that sniper was.
Because the Dallas Police Department and the governor of Texas, well, you walked right into that one, have responded to every call for.
He's such a fucking dork, man. Gotcha now. Ha ha ha.
For assistance and help. They gave a stand-down order in Chicago, and they gave a stand-down order in Portland. Do you realize that there's 11,000 federal law enforcement officers in Oregon? That's larger than the size of the FBI. Local and state police are resourced to deal with this kind of riotous assembly, but they have refused. They've been given a stand-down order. So
they've arrested
we need
some
to use
70
National
people
Guard and
since
federal
June.
troops.
They've been arresting folks on the ground. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They were refuting what you're saying outright.
We literally have the 911 audio of this stand-down order in Chicago, and we have documented inside of DHS every single unresponded to 911 call over the recent weeks and months.
Do you have evidence that this campaign is coordinated? Are you planning charges on anyone who is actually coordinating said campaign?
Okay, I don't really care about the message that's attached to this. I just want to play the video because I don't want to say he's a dork without arguing my point better. Here is him declaring the crackdown on immigration and Trendio Agua and the cartels and all these things treated as if they're the same. But anyway, here is him announcing his crackdown. Tell me how hardcore he sounds.
That there is a square inch of block in this city where a citizen doesn't feel safe is unacceptable. This is Memphis. This is the United States of America, and all that bullshit is done. It's over. It's finished. You know, the gangbangers that you deal with, they think that they're ruthless. They have no idea how ruthless we are. They think they're tough. They have no idea how tough we are. They think that they're hardcore. We are so much more hardcore than they are. And we have the entire weight of the United States government behind us. What do they have? They have nothing behind them. So we are going to win. They are going to lose. We are going to rescue Memphis. And it will not only be safer than ever before, but businesses and investment are going to pour in, and Memphis will be richer than ever before. Because President Trump has decided this is a priority. And when President Trump makes a decision, this team behind me today executes. Thank you, and God bless.
We are so hardcore. So hardcore. So hardcore. Just
occurred.
So hardcore.
Cap TBT got a Tier 3 subscription. Considering the violence that ICE has engaged in, I am a bit surprised and proud of the nonviolent response.
The response has been largely nonviolent, considering this is probably one of, if not the largest crackdown on immigrants in human history. Not in human history, in the United States. I can't say human history, but definitely in American history. One of the biggest. So, considering that, I think so far the sniper attack is probably the most egregious example, and it resulted in 0 ICE officers' deaths. Yeah, we could be in a worse place right now. We could.
Yes. So since the Joint Terrorism Task Force has gotten involved, we found that there are common funding, that there is common financing, that there are meeting points, that is
what you're
carefully
describing as
orchestrated,
actual terrorism.
Integrated.
Yeah, this is interesting. Let's go back and listen to Stephen Miller describe how he knows what's going on in Portland is terrorism, and we need to send in the army to deal with it. It's like Al-Qaeda. You know, it's just like the 9/11 guys. We need to go in there, just like we went into Afghanistan. We need to deploy because of the terrorism. Listen to how he describes them as terrorists. What justifies it?
Troops.
They've been arresting folks on the ground. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They were refuting what you're saying outright.
We literally have the 911 audio of this stand-down order in Chicago, and we have documented inside of DHS every single unresponded to 911 call over the recent weeks and months.
Do you have evidence that this campaign is coordinated? Are you planning charges on anyone who is actually coordinating said campaign?
Yes. So since the Joint Terrorism Task Force has gotten involved, we found that there are common funding, that there is common financing, that there are meeting points, that is
what you're
carefully
describing as
orchestrated,
actual
carefully
terrorism.
integrated. Yes.
And you are going to
this
charge
is
someone with terrorism.
Well, so I would like to.
Well, we know you'd like to, Stephen. I think you'd like to charge a lot of people with terrorism. I wanna.
I bet you would like to, but that doesn't mean you're going to, are you?
No. What I'm saying to you is the Congress has statutes on seditious conspiracy, on insurrection, on impeding federal law enforcement. The domestic terrorism statute in Congress obviously needs to be strengthened. For domestic terrorism in Congress, we have foreign terrorism charges. We have an entire patchwork of federal laws. To the extent that there are charges that apply, we will charge them in every single case. You have impeding law enforcement, you have seditious conspiracy, you have a conspiracy to the private rights, you have assault against law enforcement officers, but all of this...
Okay, so assaulting a law... Okay. If somebody assaults a cop, that's not terrorism. Somebody gets drunk at the bar, he's like, screw you, screw the law. He shits on himself, tries to punch a cop, misses, and then passes out. That is not an ISIS fighter, okay? That is Uncle Jim, okay, on a bad night after the divorce. You know, we need to be careful with our language because the word terrorism is being invoked here to deploy troops in American cities. And so we need to be accurate here when we're terrorism, well, somebody was doxxed. Oh, well, terrorism, well, somebody made a threat on Facebook. Oh, terrorism, okay. Are any of these things such a substantial threat that they could not have been handled by either a small FBI task force that would look into it or local law enforcement? The problem is that ICE is having a difficulty enforcing the law, enforcing Trump's immigration crackdown, and, well, following the law, but that's not of the big concern. The first two is of concern to ICE. And they want local police to help facilitate that. They won't. And so troop deployments also gives Trump an opportunity to look tough.
The hallmark, textbook definitions of domestic terrorism. Boris, I just want you, just for a moment, to step back and think about what we're talking about here. President Trump ran and won a campaign on turning back the border invasion.
You've said that several times, Stephen. We have a limited amount of time, so let me ask you. Let me ask you about the governor of Illinois.
He declared a no-go zone. He declared a no-go zone for ICE.
We are set to hear
How is that
from
not insurrection?
Stephen, we're set to hear from J.B. Pritzker in just moments. He says that you're attempting to inflame tensions and create a war zone. He also says that you are profiling, that you're targeting black and brown people, even those who turn out to be here legally. What's your response?
Well, first of all, the black people in Chicago are thrilled that we're getting the illegal aliens out of their communities who are stealing their housing, jobs, and resources. You've seen the video of the town halls during the Biden administration where black citizens who are natives of Chicago were begging to have the illegals taken out of their country. What they've done is they've created a system of law in
The question was whether or not he's engaged in racial profiling, because there have been a lot of accusations that essentially officers are looking around for people who look illegal in order to make the numbers, because if you were to go through the process of like going through all the proper documentation, going out to a judge, getting a warrant for all these houses, waiting for that, it's like you wouldn't be able to hit the numbers that Stephen Miller is asking for, the White House is asking for. And so that's why Stephen Miller made the suggestion, and it was Stephen Miller who made the suggestion of just taking the people outside of Home Depot, looking for people who gather in locations that you would expect them to be at, and you end up snatching people who, in your assertion, look like they would be illegal. And that means a lot of people from South America who are American citizens get snatched up because they don't look legal. Now, you can come to your own conclusions as to why that is. But the question was about racial profiling, and he's instead saying black people want ICE there, which isn't a response to racial profiling. If anything, if you were to read it directly, it'd almost sound like the black people saying we want to be racially profiled.
in Illinois, where illegal aliens have far more rights than American citizens. If an American citizen, for example, commits a crime of sexual predation against a child, they'll cooperate with the FBI. If an illegal alien commits a crime of sexual predation against a child, that illegal alien will be shielded in an ICE no-go zone. I ask you the question: what is the right term to describe a local official?
None of this is an answer to his question about racial profiling. This is all he's just saying that. He was asked, is racial profiling occurring? And he responded, illegal immigrants have more rights than citizens.
Declaring a no-go zone for ICE. Would you tolerate it for FBI, ATF, DEA? No, you would not. But there is an effort to delegitimize the core function of the federal government of enforcing our immigration laws and our sovereignty. It is domestic terrorism, it is insurrection, and no amount of insane hyperventilating lies from Pritzker or Johnson or any other Democratic official will change our minds on that. ICE officers should not have to live in fear and violence to do their jobs, period.
So on the substance of the question, is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
That is it's such a, oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks, they're taking jobs away from whites, they're taking jobs away from Latinos.
It's again, he's not answering the fucking question. He's still not answering. He's given a second opportunity. Again, instead of saying that, look, we're not engaging in racial profiling. When making determinations about who we're going to deport, we do not racially profile. Instead of like even just, he could just say that. Those are just words that could leave his mouth before then he's saying, what we want to do is help the people, help the poor people by giving them the jobs, because we're going to get these people in Chicago to all go down into the farm fields and work there. He's just not answering the question. It has never made me, I've never been more sure that we are engaging in profiling than I am right now after his refusal to answer the question twice in a row. Like, he could have just answered it quick and moved on. I think this is more convincing than if I was to be shown a document that said we are racially profiling by policy. Like, if I was shown an ICE document that said that, I'd be less convinced than Stephen Miller looking like he needs to get back to his bat cave.
Health benefits away, they're taking their school slots away, and of course in many cases they're committing heinous crimes. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens, and that's what they're doing. You know it and I know it.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally state that the immigration policy...
I said it's a dumb question. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that, but
it's a dumb question.
So he's refusing to answer because it's too dumb to answer on whether or not people are engaging in profiling, which has been something that's been accused by, I mean, it's not like nobody's accused. This accusations come up from multiple outlets. This isn't just like some random, like, no out of nowhere question. This is something, honestly, he probably should have expected.
He is not designed.
I thought when I said it was a dumb question, it meant no.
Well, I just want to be clear and precise. I appreciate you trying to qualify my questions, but nevertheless, I think it's a fair one that a lot of people have.
My full answer is no, that is a lie, and it's a dumb question. But you said something else.
Okay, so there, we got an answer. He says, no, there's no racial profiling going on. Okay. So why Home Depot? Why did he choose Home Depot?
The premise of one of your questions, you said, well, aren't we provoking? The Illinois governor says we're provoking actions that are unlawful. Why would the mere presence, just think about this for a second, if I put federal law enforcement and National Guard into a nice sleepy southern town, is anyone going to riot? Is anyone going to try to shoot them in the face? Are they going to try to attack them in the street?
They would say full of people in the middle of the night.
Put some masks on them and say it's the vaccine brigade. I don't know. Well, look, I would not be comfortable with any law enforcement officer who thinks that they can use force or anything lethal, non-lethal, or any type of law, hold it over me, and I can't even see their goddamn face. That makes me uncomfortable. That makes me uncomfortable. I should be able to know their name, their badge number, and I should be able to see their face. Okay? You see, how low of a bar is it that the boot on my neck, I should be able to know who wears it?
Races without identification, without identifying themselves, there might be concern among the community, especially if American citizens are being, especially if American citizens are caught up in that, which some reportedly
we netted over 30 foreign terrorists who are members of Train
an American citizen.
He didn't. Fucking Jesus Christ. See, this is the problem with the word terrorist now. Terrorist is whoever Donald Trump doesn't like. Trendiagua is a terrorist. Next is going to be Nancy Pelosi's a terrorist. The terrorist designation was used to give the Trump administration legal flexibility in going after the cartels in the same way that they went after organizations like Al-Qaeda, even though the motivations and what drives said organizations are vastly different. And the effects that they have on the United States and the American public, again, vastly different. And what they, I mean, like, Trendiagua does not have the intent of destroying the United States for some political purpose or to liberate the land. There's not a hostage taking ask there. Terrorism is, you're trying to use force and terror for a specific ask for end purpose. This is why the administration failed to bring terrorism charges against Luigi Mangione, because they couldn't prove that there was actually like a discernible demand that Luigi put forward. What's the demand by the cartels? Money? Give me money? I want money and I'll scalp you for it. Like, that's evil. That's bad. That's not good. They ship poison in the United States. But at the end of the day, that's not how people would classically define terrorism, as a non-state actor trying to use political violence as a means to an end, meaning you would need like a certain demand, whether it be the institution of Sharia, or the banning of certain, whatever it could be. But the word terrorism here is just so we can associate these people with slingshots, cardboard signs, and dyed hair with Al-Qaeda. It's to create turn these college campus crusade, like social justice crusaders, who might be annoying, might be throwing rocks at law enforcement, might even be doing things that are bad. But you wouldn't describe it as terrorism classically. You would describe it as rioting. It's the type of thing where you might spend like a few weeks in the slammer for, pay a really big fine for, but instead are now using words like terrorism, which are going to be more associated with 20 years in prison. So we got to be, or more, if you ever get out of prison. It's terrorism after all. But that's the purpose of this word. It's supposed to be disarming.
By the way, they torture women and children. Those American citizens are now safe from Trendiagua. There was a case recently in Washington State.
But isn't that enough reason for some people to demonstrate and say that they disagree with that policy?
They took a power drill.
Isn't it enough for some people?
Well, by the way.
Hey, Stephen,
first of all, let me finish the story. TDA took a power drill and drilled a hole through a woman's hand.
Understood.
Through her hand.
We have to leave the conversation there because we're short on time, but nevertheless, we do appreciate you making the time for us and coming on CNN and sharing your point of view.
Always.
Illinois.
Back to the cave he goes. Back to his cocoon, his upside down bat branch, his favorite one. Whatever rock he sunbathes on in order to sustain life.